what is mediation? So in our contracts, there is a clause, and it's specifically, and I will have that captured on the screen so that you can kind of read that. But what is mediation? When there's a dispute by two parties, buyer, seller, they dispute over whether or not we're going to cancel escrow, with whether there was any damages, whether the deposit was being held and they want it all back. All of those things cause a dispute. One party says, you should have. The other party says, no, I shouldn't have. So if they cannot resolve, the contract writes that you should get in front of a mediator, and that mediator should help you resolve your differences.
Welcome to Local Living Tri-City, your go-to podcast for exploring the vibrant communities of Temecula, Murrieta, and Menifee. Join me, Liz Jones, as we dive into real estate insights and local business stories, bringing you closer to the heart of our Tri-City area. Let's get started with today's episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Local Living. I am your host, Liz Jones, and today we're going to tackle a subject that may not be what you think about first when you're buying and selling a home. We're going to talk about arbitration and mediation and why that's important to you. So let's break that down. Our team was just getting a little bit of training this morning, and we were kind of helping everyone understand. Our contracts, by the way, are outrageous. There's 14, 15 pages that we see grow each and every day. And when it comes to you, when you're an excited buyer, you saw this house, you decided to make an offer on the property, we send you a DocuSign. We talk about a few things: price, how long to close, what's your deposit, do you have funds, do you have your pre-approval, we're going to get you a warranty, do you want the refrigerator, washer, dryer, etc. And that's usually where it stops. Well, that's all great information and it's truly essential, but the bottom line is you are getting ready to sign what looks like a 15, 16-page document, pretty much your life away, right? Now, yes, there's escape clause all throughout. Obviously, you're doing inspections, obviously you're doing appraisals, you're doing your loan, you've got to get your loan, and that is a safeguard for not losing your deposit. But what else are you signing inside this document, and what are your rights? So we'll tackle a couple of these today. Let's maybe talk about what is mediation. So in our contracts, there is a clause, and it's specifically, and I will have that captured on the screen so that you can kind of read that. But what is mediation? When there's a dispute by two parties, buyer, seller, they dispute over whether or not we're going to cancel escrow, with whether there was any damages, whether the deposit was being held and they want it all back. All of those things cause a dispute. One party says, you should have. The other party says, no, I shouldn't have. So if they cannot resolve, the contract writes that you should get in front of a mediator, and that mediator should help you resolve your differences. That mediator understands contracts exclusively. They understand every word in our California contract. And keep in mind, if you're watching this in another state, your mediation contract and your disputes are going to be slightly different than here in California. So in California, you would get in front of a mediator. They're about $250 an hour. They are certified. Some are agents, some are not. It doesn't mean anything. If they have a certification for being a mediator, that's what's important. And then you average time is about 1 to 2 hours where you guys are hashing it out, trying to find common ground. Now, if that occurs, you both must mutually agree. If you both mutually agree to settle, it's written up, and if everybody stays on the same track, nobody changes their mind, the escrow is notified, the actions are released, your deposits are released per everyone's conversation. And that's the end of that, right? Easy peasy. And that's why it's built inside our contract the way it is. Let's say nobody can agree. Then we're forced to go to arbitration. Now, arbitration and liquid damages are two optional places on your contract. Let me share with you, I think we're all guilty of this, that because there's a place for a buyer and seller to sign, automatically everybody signs buyer and seller. But I want our audience to understand what you are actually agreeing to when you sign that optional area. Not a lot of agents understand the deep dive on this because, again, these contracts are changing all the time. So it's important to go into what does arbitration mean. So in the case of arbitration, it's saying we have mediated, We came to what we could not come to a decision. So now we're going to go in front of a professional, kind of like a judge. And this person does this for a living, arbitration for a living. Their fees are substantially less than what you're going to pay in court fees and time and attorney costs, et cetera, because he's going to make a final decision. He's going to review your case, he's going to review their case, and he's going to say, I make a decision to do X. There is no changing it. After he's made that decision, it is finalized, right? So in this case, an arbitration person will probably charge roughly about $2,000, $2,500 to make that decision. So I tell you these numbers because I think it's important for you to know that you can fight it out just to be right, but a lot of times there's dollars. And if you're talking about a small amount of money that's tied up in escrow, $3,000, $4,000 for a deposit, you may be wasting your time and money for this tiny amount of money that's going to come back to you. So it's really important to keep this all at the top of your head. So let's pretend that you chose not to go to arbitration. Okay, I'm mediating, we cannot agree, I'm going to take them to court, I'm suing them. Okay, so there's a couple things that happen. Number one, be aware that if you choose not to go to mediation, you choose not to go to arbitration, you choose to go straight into court, there are two ways to do it. If the amount that is on the lawsuit is lower than $12,500, you will be going into small claims court. Easy enough, small fee, get in front of the court, the judge decides, boom, it's done, right? I can't promise you that they wouldn't kick it back because they're going to ask, did you go to mediation? The answer is no, I didn't go to mediation. Judge says, I'm not going to see the case until you go to mediation first. And boom, you're right back in the starting place. Now, let's pretend you went mediation, couldn't resolve, and then you went to small claims court. He's going to rule, it's definitive, it's the end of the line. If you don't choose to go to arbitration, you sign the arbitration clause, you took them to small claims court anyway, or a larger court with, say, a jury, okay, over this dispute, and you lose. The prevailing group can collect their attorney's fees. However, the other side is not going, if you pursued and you lost, you're not collecting your attorney's fees. So there's another cost that you have to worry about. So this could be really costly. You really want to know what you're doing. And I would always recommend going to mediation. And then finally, I would also say there's an optional space on the contract for liquidated damages. Now, what does this mean? It's specifically, this is protecting the buyer. The buyer has put a deposit down. In our area, that deposit for earnest money is approximately 1%. If we were in Orange County or San Diego County, that would likely be closer to 3%. Or if we were really trying to impress our sellers, we would throw down $100,000 or whatever to impress them, say, choose us, look how invested we are. In that case, should there be a dispute, should it come down to this, we have a cap to a regular buyer, a buyer like you and I buying our home. There's a maximum of 3% loss, liquidated damages. They can pursue and get back up to 3%. Now, if you put down less than 3%, they're not going to recover the difference, right? If you put down $5,000 and 3% might have been $15,000, they are not going to be successful in collecting more money from you, okay? But they are entitled to $5,000 and it would go off. Now, let's pretend you are an investor and you're just saying, I'm going to go ahead and put down $50,000, remove all my contingencies, and it's more than 3%. In this case, liquidated damages does not protect an investor in any one shape or form. So you need to be aware of that before you sign that. You have the option to decline these two items, liquidated damages and arbitration. In most cases, my clients sign them. And it's because if you know what you have, if you know the worst case scenario, everyone seems to win at the end. But again, you and your agent should discuss this before moving forward. So I think more importantly than anything else, it leads to the point that it's important to read your contracts. In today's age, we're sitting there with large contracts, lots of disclosures. The assumption is your real estate agent is going to take care of you. Your real estate agent knows what's in them. It is ultimately your responsibility as a buyer or seller to read through those contracts. So in best case scenario, please ask your agent to send you a hard copy through email so that you can review. know what you're signing, and then when you go to DocuSign, you have a confidence that you're just signing signatures. So it is important to have that. At the same time, ask questions. So you will never wear out your agent by asking questions. I had someone ask last night from reading a listing agreement, and the listing agreement said, seller to pay commissions based on the listing price. And then there's a printed price. And the question simply came back, do I pay commissions on the final selling price or the listing price? That was an excellent question. I've never been asked before. And I assured him that if the property sells for less than that number, he will be paying commissions based on that lower number, the selling price. But that's a great question. You should know these. And if you don't, you should ask these questions. You got to know your rights. That's really, really important. So as a buyer, as a seller, know your rights. Know how your agent is supposed to protect you in all of these cases. And these are questions that you should ask. And then choose your professionals wisely. So obviously there are those that read the contracts. If you're in front of your agent, you're pretending to sign a buyer's rep agreement, or you are getting ready to sign a contract and they cannot fully explain this contract to you, at least in part or summary, you're with the wrong individual. We are a fiduciary, and if your fiduciary protection is not entailed, if they cannot explain what you're selling or know how to defend it, then I think you're with the wrong individual. And there are plenty of individuals out there that can. I'm Liz. Thank you so much for tuning in to Local Living. And if I can answer any questions, just click below or reach out to us. I thank you until the next time.
Thank you for listening to Local Living Tri-City. Stay tuned for more insights and stories from Temecula, Murrieta, Menifee, and surrounding areas. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend that is passionate about the Tri-City area as you are. Goodbye for now, and we'll see you next episode.